Imagine living your entire life, and the only photograph ever taken of you was made after your death. For many Victorian families, the most important photograph they would ever own was taken on the worst day in that family's life. Because in the Victorian era, photography was rare, expensive, uncommon, and sometimes death became the first and the only moment that was ever captured. And yet, these photographs were almost never meant for the public. They were often hidden in drawers, tucked into family albums, or kept inside private mourning keepsakes. So the most important photograph in a person's life was sometimes also the one almost nobody else would ever see. Most people today leave behind thousands of images. Victorians usually did not. For an ordinary family, a photograph was not something casual. It was an occasion. People dressed carefully. They prepared themselves for the moment, and they stayed perfectly still, sometimes for a long time, so the image could be captured without being ruined. Because photography was expensive. By the standards of that time, very expensive. A single portrait could cost what a working person earned in several days, sometimes even an entire week of wages, which meant that for many families, a photograph was never just a picture. It was something deliberate, something meaningful. And sometimes that single image became the only tangible trace left of someone who had once been part of their lives. But life rarely waited for the perfect moment to take a photograph, and especially not in the Victorian era, a time when death was a frequent guest in many homes. Epidemics moved through cities. Diseases that today are easily treated could take a life in days. And childhood was especially fragile, which meant that a person could live an entire life and never be photographed. And sometimes they did not even have the chance to live that life at all. When a life ended suddenly, a family was left with a painful realization. There was no portrait, no image, nothing that could preserve the face they loved. And with time, even the clearest memories begin to fade. A face slowly softens in the mind until one day it is no longer remembered exactly as it was. In that moment, some families made a decision. They called a photographer. Because post-mortem photography in that era was not meant to be frightening. It was an attempt to preserve a human presence that would otherwise disappear. When the photographer arrived, the goal was not simply to record death. Families wanted something far more personal. They wanted the person to look dignified, recognizable, as natural as possible. Hair was carefully arranged. Sometimes it was brushed and smoothed, just as it had been worn in life. Clothes were chosen with care. Often the person was dressed in their best garments. Hands were gently positioned. A favorite object might be placed nearby. Flowers were sometimes arranged around the body. Every small detail was adjusted slowly and respectfully, because this image would become the memory that remained. For the family, it mattered deeply how that memory would look. They wanted the face in the photograph to feel familiar, almost alive, so that in the years that followed, when someone opened that photograph again, they could still recognize the person they loved and feel the quiet ache of their absence. And that is where the most unusual part of this tradition began, because photographers of the time developed careful ways to make the person in the image appear almost alive. And sometimes, when we look at these photographs today, it can be surprisingly difficult to understand what we are seeing, because many post-mortem photographs were carefully arranged to resemble ordinary portraits. The person might be seated in a chair, or placed beside other members of the family, sometimes even positioned upright. Photographers used subtle supports hidden behind the body to keep it steady during the exposure. Hands were arranged naturally. The head was gently supported. Every detail was meant to recreate a familiar image of the person as they had once been seen in life. When the subject was a child, additional support was often needed. A parent, most often the mother, would sit behind the child and hold the body carefully in place. To keep the support hidden, she would cover herself with a large cloth or drapery so that she disappeared into the background of the photograph. Today, in some of these images, the faint outline of that hidden figure can still be seen beneath the fabric. And that is why, when we look closely at certain photographs from that era, it is not always immediately clear who in the image is alive and who is not. And this leads to a question that still surprises many people today. When you look at a Victorian photograph like this, can you actually tell who in the image is no longer alive? At first glance, many of these portraits look completely ordinary. A family gathered together, a child sitting quietly, a couple standing side by side. Nothing immediately reveals that one person in the image has already died. But if you look closely, there are sometimes small details. The stillness of the body, the careful position of the hands, the way the family surrounds one person slightly differently. These photographs were never meant to deceive the people who took them. The families knew exactly what they were looking at. But for us today, more than a century later, the line between life and death in these images can become strangely difficult to see. Over time, attitudes toward death began to change. In the Victorian era, death was still part of everyday life. It happened at home. Families prepared the body themselves. Children grew up understanding that death was a natural part of human life. But by the beginning of the 20th century, death slowly moved out of the home and into hospitals and funeral homes. And with that shift, traditions like post-mortem photography gradually began to disappear. To later generations, this practice became harder and harder to understand. And yet, many of these photographs were never lost. They remained in family albums. They were kept in boxes alongside letters and personal belongings. Sometimes they were quietly passed from one generation to the next. In some families, they were even displayed beside other portraits of ancestors. But most often, they remained part of a deeply personal family history. Small fragments of the past that outlived the people within them. Today, when we look at Victorian post-mortem photographs, they can feel strange, unsettling, and sometimes difficult to understand. But for the people who created them, they were never meant to be disturbing. They were simply a way of facing loss and holding on to those who were no longer there. And now I'm curious about something. Have you ever seen photographs like these in your own family history? Did your relatives keep memorial portraits of loved ones who had passed away? Or is this tradition completely unfamiliar to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every message, and it genuinely means a lot to hear your perspective. And if this story helped you see Victorian post-mortem photography from a different point of view, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for spending this time with me and watching this story until the end.